Welcome to
Right.
another episode of Roll or Die. In our goal to bring you every female Australian Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt, we have for you all the way from sunny Perth. Some people know her as Johanna Lee, some people know her as Johanna Skiba. We're just going to call her Jo.
Yeah.
She is here with us, and thank you very much for joining us, Jo.
Hi, so excited to be here.
Awesome. So you might just before we started, you were running us through the various gyms you are aligned with right now. So it's probably best if you introduce where you hang out and what you do in relation to
Sure.
what gyms. That's going to be better.
Yeah, Perth kind of like that. We sort of get around a bit. So, yeah, I started in Albany under Chris Mazzali at Mitsudomo Martial Arts, and so I still grade under Chris. So he gave me my black belt. But I also train locally just down the road at Gemina where with Jo Masiello. So she's also a part of my grading as well. She's a big influence in my training and my grading as well. And then so that's my sort of my local. And then I also coach the women's jiu-jitsu at RoD MMA in Beaver Lake. And my husband's the head coach there too. So
Awesome.
a couple of different places. I also get around to a lot of other gyms when I can.
Awesome.
So, would you say, is your husband your coach or not really?
You know, we are each other's coach to a degree, but for me, I've always tried to separate it a bit just because when I met him, he was a black belt and I was a blue belt. Uh, and so I've made it all the way to black in being with him. So that he's always had an influence on me, always been a coach to me, but it was really important for me to separate him as my coach in terms of grading. And my casual, obviously I learn from him and we bounce stuff off each other all the time. So he is my coach in a way, but he's not my official coach lineage grading side of things.
Okay.
How does that
Oh,
go?
my dad was my principal at primary school, so I always know what it is to
Oh, wow.
have someone that's associated with your learning, and you want to detach from that because you don't want people to accredit your merits to that relationship, and so that's sort of where I ended up with that.
Yeah, because I was about to ask, like, how do you go with that demarcation? But you've had it like for a very long time then, just in your past,
Yeah.
because we've had other guests on previously who have a similar situation where they're partners and that's their coach, and it's quite a difficult relationship to navigate. Is that the case for you guys or not really?
Yeah, it's evolved over time. Obviously, as I said, I was a blue belt when we met. I got to purple pretty soon after we met, and I've always learned a lot from him. But I just know that at different times we've trained together more, and different times we've trained together less. And that's more just to do with what I'm seeking for my training. I think as a female in jiu-jitsu, I've always been very proactive in seeking coaches, information, rolling partners that suit my needs in the sort of progression that I'm in my jiu-jitsu. So Kyle and I, it was a bit of a learning process for us, and he hadn't rolled a lot of girls when we met. So I was one of the first main female training partners that he ever had. So it takes a bit of learning on how to appropriately roll with a woman to help her, but not be patronizing or not go too easy that it feels disingenuous. And also your relationship with any rolling partner, it does progress and build where you know what you can do and what you shouldn't do. And there's days when sometimes you overstep that boundary and that sort of thing, but we're in a really good place. I think COVID was great for us because we only could roll each other.
Yeah.
So that was wonderful. That was a great thing for us, our jiu-jitsu relationship, both of our progression technically. It was a great period for us.
Only someone from Perth can say that COVID was good. Sorry, we're in Melbourne and I can't allow that because our lockdown went for about 2 years. Yours went for about 2 minutes. And sorry, that's
I know. I'm probably one of the few people that actually enjoyed COVID for what it was, the lockdown. I think we had maybe max 3 months of lockdown, and Kyle and I had mats at our house, and this was before I had a baby as well. So we just spent a lot of time because he was working from home. We spent every day just having a roll together and just going about our our daily life together. And it was quite nice to actually spend all that time together. We didn't get under each other's skin at all. It was actually a really positive thing for us in a way.
Yeah, I have mixed memories, to be honest. Actually, I didn't hate the lockdown. I like it brought out my antisocial side, and I got a lot done, but
Me
not for
too.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated to know about, like you said, a male rolling with a female, and not coming across as patronizing and disingenuous. I'd love you to expand upon that, because I think most of our listeners are males 30 to 45 or something like that. And
Mm.
like I definitely know that sometimes I never intend to be patronizing or disingenuous, but I do think sometimes I would, because maybe I go lighter, or maybe so what in your view, what is not patronizing and disingenuous?
It's really hard. There's such a fine line, and every girl will actually kind of have their own view of it, I guess, or their own experience with it, because as women, we all vary in sizes and body capabilities, our belt level, obviously, as well.
Mm.
So, I mean, I remember being, especially when I was blue and purple, I was like, I'm happy for people to go hard, but I also, that was when my body started breaking down too. And so my mind was like, I want to go hard, but my body was like, maybe not. So I've now got to a point technically where most hard rolls for me with men are quite, they're stimulating. I enjoy it. And so I'm happy for people to go pretty hard, even at their full capacity to a degree. It's mostly for me, it's the power. It's when the big power jumps come out. And I've talked to this with Kyle as well with our rolls. I don't care if he goes hard on me. I care if you're going 60% and suddenly, because you feel pressured, you go 90% in a split second. Whereas if you're just going 50% the whole roll with me, I don't know what reactions are actually genuine, what I actually got, or what you gave to me. There's not, the challenge isn't there as much. So I think it also depends on what you're physically capable of, but also your belt level and how you connect mentally with jiu-jitsu. So there's a fine line, and it's kind of hard to find that. I think it just actually takes practice and repetition of rolling with the same woman and getting a rolling relationship with her.
Yeah.
So it can be a bit hard with one-off rolls when you roll a girl that you've never rolled before, and you probably won't roll her again, say visitors and that sort of thing. I think it's good to start at 50, 60%, see what she brings to the role in intensity, because a lot of girls come out pretty intense.
Oh yeah.
And what kind of medium you can find between managing her intensity, because it is, when someone comes at you, no matter whether they're male or female, it's quite a confronting and affronting rather. And it's hard not to react back, but it's trying not to overstep that reaction and find a medium where you can manage her intensity without bringing too much that over the top power. It's hard. It depends on your level, depends on your body. I'm lucky to be a female that's in I think my body size is probably one of the best for rolling with all range of people, because I'm about 70 kilos and I am quite strong as a girl, so I can roll with men 10, 20, sometimes 30 kilos heavier than me and be okay, and my body will be okay. And I can also obviously roll the smaller people, whereas women who are about between 50 and 60 kilo, that's a huge jump in weight and strength difference, and just your body taking the pressure of that can be quite a lot too. So it's complicated.
I'll add to that, because I'm probably in that category and I'm a little bit older. So I would suggest for our listeners, like for dudes that are looking to roll with females, aim sort of for that, taking strength out of the equation. But I mean, what does that even mean? Things like aiming for a flow roll to start with. And like you were saying, Joe, just like gauging what they have. Because to me, I see jiu-jitsu as like a conversation. So if someone's yelling at you when they're coming at you hard, like that's kind of yell back. So if you aim to just kind of flow and move between the positions fairly easily, I would say that's kind of what you would aim for when you're, especially the first few times you're rolling with females. That's kind of usually what is going to help them rather than be overpowered. So,
Yeah, I like that.
That's right. Yeah. And like you said, like what is strength? How do you get rid of that? It is hard. It's hard to know your strength in comparison to someone else. I don't know if you know Hannah from Albany, Hannah Gaffney. She's quite small. She's under 60 kilos, and she's quite direct. And you know, if she's got something to say, she'll say it not in a malicious way. It's just like, here's just something to consider. And she did say to one of the guys she was rolling once, you know, how much do you after their roll? She said, how much do you deadlift? And he was like, oh, like 150, blah blah. And she's like, okay, I weigh less than 60. So you can deadlift over double my weight. I can't even deadlift my own weight right now, or whatever it was. And so that's just something to consider when you're bringing your intensity and your strength into that equation. Just a comparison to sort of consider, I guess. So sometimes if you put it into a way that might actually help them understand the difference in your physicality and what you can bring, it can help a little bit. So
I like that. There's one more thing I'm going to add. I've never said this before, but I'm 50, right? And my strength and my speed are in decline. I can feel it, right? It's something I'm noticing on the mats. And people may find me patronizing because I will tap easier than I've ever tapped before. I will give up things. I'm getting better technically, but I'm not getting stronger or fitter or faster. And it's like sometimes I may come across to some people. So I think it's also important to be aware that sometimes people are not patronizing. I'm basically trying to add to the conversation that sometimes it might not even be the other person patronizing. Like everybody is going to have bad days, off days, up days, down days, or be in a physical decline or have a health issue or whatever. So it's like, I guess listening and communicating both ways is going to be super important as well.
So true. Yeah. I think a lot of people, most of the time you can read people's vibe, especially the more you get to know them. You read people, you read their intentions, you read their vibe, and sometimes you can tell when someone's vibe is more on sort of like negative, malicious, patronizing side, and then others when you're like, I know that you're training for you, you're looking after me, and you're trying to find the right balance here. So I think most people who are tuned to other people, and not everyone is attuned to other people, they can usually sense the vibe there. And like I said, as you know, say a female comes to train in your gym, like I said, it's a relationship that you'll build and you can give feedback to each other. And I think we need to be better at giving open, honest feedback and communication in what you want in a role. It's a bit like sex, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Don't go there, Joe, with that one. You go down a tangent there.
Yeah,
we
I like
do not
it.
want to go.
Johanna, you're welcome anytime.
But, you know, everyone talks about it, you know, in terms of sex, where like, you know, you need to tell your partner what you like, what they can do for you.
Absolutely.
And, you know, what you ask them what you want, what you can do for them. And, you know, rolling, it shouldn't be selfish. It shouldn't just be about you, because there's two people who have different goals and aims here, and sometimes those goals don't align, and so you either need to decide that maybe you won't train together right now, or you will find a medium, or you can go, oh, I'm happy to roll like that with you today. Because for me, I am quite I want to roll for a submission, right? Like I am there to submit or be submitted, and that's how I compete too. I don't think about points. I don't think about how to beat them in little ways, although I do take small victories. As a woman, I think taking small victories is really important in your roles, but for me, I've definitely moved away from the art of jiu-jitsu. Some people do jiu-jitsu as an art, and they're so interested in the intricacies of it and how they can make their jiu-jitsu like a dance, like beautiful, and experimenting with inversions and bolos and this going from here to there. No, I want to smash. I want to smash, and I want to be smashed. And I think that's totally okay, but you need to make sure that you're on that wavelength with the person that you roll with, because otherwise then that's when negativity sort of comes into your relationship with the people that you roll with, when there's a difference in intention.
Amazing.
Yeah. And just one last point on that, I think as well, if I can just add, for the females out there who are listening or whatever, it's two-way. The other side of the coin is women also need to speak up. And sometimes it's quite common, unfortunately, that women don't feel comfortable to say to their partner, "You're going too hard. I can, please back it off a bit," or whatever, because sometimes the guy doesn't know. But there's no shame in speaking up, and even sometimes refusing a partner. If someone wants to partner you, some women don't feel comfortable to say, "No, I can't take that role." Like, it should be an open enough relationship that you can say, "No, look, that's going too hard. Can you back it off," or whatever. So it's not always the guy. That's
absolutely. There's onus on you to take control of your training and your experience. There's lots of different things that influence your experience at training. Your coach is a big influence, and a lot of women feel comfortable to go to their coach about an issue but not actually approach the person. But it's really hard for a coach to come in third party to something that they didn't witness, they weren't present for, they don't know the situation. So sometimes it just needs to be in the moment. And I think women probably do need to and we need to support each other to get better at communicating our training better and taking onus and responsibility over our own training experience in areas that we can control.
Yeah, boundaries and agreements comes to mind. Like, it's like, and do it up front.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm injured, so let's do this. Or, hey, this is what I'm going for submissions. I want you to go for submissions. Or, hey, I'm not going for submissions. I just want to bowler the hell out of you. So, don't try to, like, whatever, just communicate whatever your preference is.
Yeah.
I read a stat the other day, bringing sex back to jiu-jitsu somehow, that 96% of men have orgasms, and this is not the amount of men and women in sex. 96% of the time men have orgasms, and 9% of the time women have orgasms. And maybe there's a link here too. Like, maybe as far as the training is concerned, maybe there is an imbalance here about speaking up. I don't know, but I'm going to leave this conversation here. But I think, we can all...
Josie, I told you he'd go down this road.
It was on Instagram.
Just diverging a little bit here. Jo, you mentioned your baby. So you've got a little bubba. How old is he or she?
Her name's Lilia. She's a month off 2.
Yeah. How is that going for you? How are you finding balancing training and motherhood? And did you train through your pregnancy? Tell us about that.
So I did train through my pregnancy quite a lot. I trained up to about 30 weeks. From about 20 to 30 weeks, I pretty much only rolled Kyle, my husband, and a couple of select others. And then from 30 weeks, it was actually more, it wasn't that I couldn't physically do it. It was more actually the guilt that took over me. So I started feeling really guilty about putting her at risk. I was really worried that I was being selfish by, what if something did happen and I put her at risk, and I'm just doing it for my own selfish reason because I can't leave jiu-jitsu behind, sort of thing. So I started doing more swimming and some other activities just to keep myself active. And I really involved myself in the jiu-jitsu community during that time, where I would help a lot of other women in the community by, mentoring them and giving them feedback on their jiu-jitsu and technical advice. And even Kyle as well. That was when I really started actually mentoring him back. Even though I was a brown belt, we've got different games, and so I was able to mentor him from a sort of third person's perspective. So that was a really great experience, and I felt like my jiu-jitsu actually progressed really well from that period of time too, because I couldn't roll in the normal way that I would. It really actually helped give just a different perspective and make me really observant of jiu-jitsu again, because I was quite early in brown, early to mid brown, late brown. I was pregnant, and my purple belt was just about going full steam ahead and smashing and doing that sort of thing. So it really helped me find a new perspective on that. And then when I was in so I started actually rolling after I had my first roll 3 weeks postpartum, and the rolling was fine. It was just sort of after I felt like my hips were like, oh, we're not really happy about this. So I just did 1 session a week for the first 8 weeks, from 3 to 8 weeks. until my body sort of started coming back to a good place. And then I just sort of took it as it came. With the first year of training was a bit hard with sleep deprivation. It was a killer. My child has been a very, very bad sleeper. So training through sleep deprivation could be really taxing and hard on my body. I dealt with a lot of minor, I don't want to say minor, just injuries that they lasted and hung around for a while, but they weren't like catastrophic injuries like an ACL or anything like that. It was just my body not being able to repair itself because of the poor sleep. But yeah, I tried to do ADCC trials at 6 months postpartum, and that was terrible. I had COVID. I literally got COVID. Like I felt the COVID come on the flight over. I was like, "Whoa, I'm getting really hot." And anyway, I wasn't in a space to actually. I was training once a week, twice a week at the most at the time, and I think it was just more. I was like, "Oh, if there's an opportunity for ADCC, I want to take it because I don't know when I can do this again." So I did it, and it was sort of it was too early, and then I did a local comp, and I took a short notice fight for Battleground Invitational against Nora at 8 months postpartum, and I felt really good in terms of my actual jiu-jitsu skill was great. It was just my gas tank that was, and for all comps that I've done since I've been postpartum, the main thing for me has just always been that cardio, because when you don't get enough sleep and you can only do sporadic sessions or quick rolling sessions here and there, your gas tank is very much compromised at that comp level. But my skills, I feel like, has seen the best progression in the last 2 years since I've given birth. So
can I ask, looping back to this guilt thing, because you talked about how like guilt got in the way of some stuff.
Still does.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask. Like, do you think that part of the performance stuff is guilt? Like, like having a baby? It seems like every mother is dealing with guilt. It's like this thing that you like give it as a gift along with your child, and it's like it's a blessing and a curse, I'm sure, in a lot of ways. But like, is that like something that you now have to just manage as far as training? Like, how much does it impact training, competing, all of these things that mother's guilt?
Yeah. The first year, probably even year and a half of being a mum, the guilt was really hard to deal with. Every time I trained, I felt like I shouldn't be doing this. I should be being a mum. I should be attending to my child. I'm being selfish. It was sort of around about when she turned 1 that I realized that she actually quite enjoyed being in the gym and meeting new people and having a play and that sort of thing. So the guilt has subsided much more in the past year, but I still do. It depends on how many sessions in the week I get. 1 or 2, I'm like, oh, cool. Like it's good for her to be down there and see it. But the more I train, the more guilt I feel for being selfish and indulging my own my own wants and desires, and that I'm taking away time from her, and foisting her on other people to sort of help look after her, whether it be people in the gym who watch her while I roll, or Kyle who will stay at home so that I can jump down the road and have a roll, even though he's sort of working at the same time. So it intensifies at different points, but it has gotten easier probably in the especially last 6 months. It's getting better.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I know it's not easy to share this stuff, but it's so important because it's like,
oh no, I'm an open book.
On that, Joe, like my youngest is nearly 18, so like he's really much only known a time of me ever doing jiu-jitsu. But from my end, unfortunately, to tell you, that doesn't really go away, that guilt. I just manage it. But at the same time, I think it's so important for women, especially, or mums, to have something for themselves, like for them, that time when I'm on the mat, I don't have to be a mum. Like it's just about me. And I think especially as they get older, the kids can see that. And that's so important for them to know that their mum has like their own interests and their own things, rather than kind of devoting their entire lives to their kids, which is not healthy. Like, so I think it's actually a really good thing being a role model of having something like that in your life that you can show her. And I think especially for women, like, or for girls, to see that jiu-jitsu is like so amazing. You can do it no matter what your body shape, no matter what your athletic level. There's always like, there's different games for different body types. And so you can do that no matter what you look like or how heavy or small or whatever you are. So I think it's a beautiful thing to show a daughter what jiu-jitsu can bring to your life.
Yeah, I agree. I really actually, that's something that I tell myself when I feel guilty. It's something I try to remind myself. And I've had conversations with other mums about this who also train, especially like I've got a couple that are close to me, and some of them actually really need jiu-jitsu to be a better mum, because taking time for yourself to do these things, especially something that's physical, that has such a positive benefit for your body physically and mentally, it's actually really important to take these opportunities to nourish yourself, because you can't actually, obviously, you can't fill from an empty cup, as the saying goes. So I think jiu-jitsu is part of what fills my cup as a person. In fact, it's a big part of what fills my cup as a person. I don't have a lot of other things going for me that do the same as jiu-jitsu, and I think a lot of people who do jiu-jitsu kind of similar in that, and jiu-jitsu ends up being quite a big part of their life and how they cope with the world. And so if you deny yourself that opportunity, it actually ends up having a negative effect on you and your relationship with your children. It can lead to resentment. Resentment of your partner, resentment of your kids, because they're taking away part of your identity, that especially that before you had children was a huge part of your identity. So it's something I do try to remind myself of when I do feel guilty. But sometimes, even though you can understand something rationally, it can be hard to still not feel those feelings.
So true.
Maybe your daughter will do what my sons do and tell me, Mum, go and train jiu-jitsu. You're too grumpy, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's true. It's something I discovered this year, actually, which is really cool, is like I thought I'm going to flex my network. I have quite a big business network, right? And friends and whatever else. I'm going to flex this network as hard as I can. I'm going to ask for things as many times as I can throughout the year and see how many people get pissed off with me, right? So almost every day, I'm like, how do I get this to here? Who can help me with this? Who can help me? I'm always asking nonstop, right? But it's very rarely about me. It's always about something else. But what I've discovered is that no matter how much you ask, your community want to contribute to you. They don't want to not contribute to you. In fact, it's their privilege. So when they get to help us raise our children, that's their privilege that we sometimes take away from them, from our own guilt or from our own, self-consciousness or whatever. So that's something I've really discovered for me at the ripe old age of 50, is the more you ask of people, the more they actually, like, as long as it's amazing requests or interesting requests, or they get to really contribute, they love it. They want it. They're begging for it, so I like to ask. Yeah.
I think that's such a good point, because I feel, especially somewhere like Gemini, where I spend a lot of my time, and there's quite a close-knit group of women there, and a lot of us are actually mums as well. We're such a tribe, your gym is your tribe in a way, and people do love helping each other and looking out for each other when they can, especially if there's someone that can't roll or they're not really in the mood to roll. They're like, yeah, I'll play with your child while you have a roll. You go, get out there, don't worry about her, you go, I've got this. And it's great, because it just helps relieve some of that inner burden of going, oh, I feel bad that I'm interrupting someone else's training to do my own selfish training. And I think that's the good thing about having such a strong home-based gym, that you feel is like your tribe, because you all look out for each other in various ways, and kids is a big one of those sorts of things.
Absolutely.
We normally ask this at the start, but we're nearly at the end. But can you tell us a bit about how you discovered jiu-jitsu? So you mentioned that you met your husband when you were already a blue belt, but how did you come upon it?
Yeah, so I was dating a guy who'd done some sort of backyard MMA, and he was watching the UFC with one of his mates, and it was actually,
I'm joking.
yeah. So he was actually he was watching UFC with one of his mates, and it was Ronda Rousey's first match in UFC. I'm pretty sure it was one of her first ones that they put in, and just watching her do was absolutely amazing for me because I'd always been a really physical girl. Like I said, I'm quite strong. I'm built like a carrot. I'm big up top and more narrow down the bottom, you know. So I've got
No one's
got
ever
nice
said that. I
big
love
arms and shoulders. And yeah. Hashtag carrot life.
that.
So, so yeah, I saw it and I just thought it was amazing because it was something that I'd always on the inside felt like I've never been a girly girl. I've always been more of a tomboy, and I always felt really out of place in that side of things. And I really had always wanted to do something like martial arts, or I was really good at sport. And so seeing this, I was like, that's what I need to do. That's what I've been wanting to do all this time. And luckily enough, there was a gym in Albany, and my boyfriend and his friend said, "Oh yeah, there's a gym in Albany that does jiu-jitsu. We should go down and check it out." So we did, and the first time I was there, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. This is what I was meant to do.
Found my happy
And
place.
I was sold the first session
So you
and
loved
just
it instantly. You didn't feel that kind of like, whoa, this is like a bit confronting. Oh my God, I've got
nah,
all these sweaty
nah,
men in
I
my
got in there
face.
and I tried to bash them all. I knew nothing, but I tried to bash them all. I was like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna try because they showed me some backyard sort of moves before we went down. Some very poor technique, but got the idea of it, and I was like, okay. So when it was the rolling time after technique, I was like, I'm going in there and I'm gonna try and smash these guys,
Yeah.
and it was great. It was just, yeah. Like I said, I mean, I've got four brothers. And like I'm the youngest of six kids, so I've got four brothers and a sister. And my parents have always been like, "You're not a princess. You're like, you're a hard, you can do stuff. You're physical. You're sporty. Go get them." They were never like, "You're too delicate."
No,
So I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get in there and smash these guys if I can."
that's so
So
good.
yeah.
That's great.
So good. And we talked about, like, Kim mentioned that she thinks there's only like 50 female black belts in Australia. And you seem surprised by that number at the start, but this is before we started recording. How many black belts did you think that there were in Australia, female wise, or what's your gut feel?
Oh, I was thinking it was between like 50 and 100, but
Okay.
I was thinking it was starting to get more towards 100 just because in my mind I was like, I feel like there's been a couple graded recently in
Mhm.
since I went around when I got mine, there were a couple others as well that I saw
Yeah.
get theirs. And so I was like, oh, the numbers must just be creeping up. So I'm not, I
I
don't
think
keep
it's
track of
over
it.
50, but I think it's
Yeah.
closer to 60 than to 100 though. I think
Mm.
maybe it's low 60s. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I mostly keep track of WA. Like, WA is kind of my, I don't want to say passion project because that sounds a bit corny, but my energy, especially since I was pregnant as a brown belt, was I want to work on getting WA women's jiu-jitsu to a point where like we're growing, we're community based, we're looking after each other.
Mm.
And like that's not to say that we have to all be friends and best friends and love each other. It's just more about creating a network with each other in different gyms so that we feel like we can train with each other. We don't have to be, when I was a blue belt, a lot of girl and white belt, but a lot of girls didn't talk to each other
Mm.
when we were competing against each other. It was sort of like, I have to dislike you to compete against you, and we don't talk, we're not friendly. And it's really changed, and I put a lot of effort in with a couple of other people that I've known in the community since those early days. We've made a big effort to actually change that sort of vibe and that
That's great.
attitude, and it's come such a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we don't have to hate each
awesome.
other to compete. That's for sure.
No, not
Mm.
at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're nearly out of time, Joe, but that was fantastic. I feel like we could do a whole other episode. There's a bunch of
Absolutely.
other stuff,
You're a
like
rock star.
you
Yeah.
commentated on
I'm happy to come
Battleground.
back anytime.
I wanted to ask
Yeah.
you about that, but I think we're going to run out of time. Ask you about your match against Liz Kingy I saw you there
Oh
a couple of months
that was
ago, and
great.
that was awesome. So
Yeah.
like I said, we'll have this out, and we're really hoping to grow our audience over in WA. So if you could share
Yeah.
this on your social media, that would be
Absolutely.
amazing for
And
us. And
one other thing though, actually, because we've got a
Yeah.
minute left, is like we want to grow in WA as well, right? So one idea is when you find great females, if that's what your focus is in WA, send them our way. We'll have them on the show. we want to be part of the WA scene as well. And so let's empower each other on this journey and help your passion project, you know.
Yeah.
I have tried to get
Yeah.
a few of the female black belts from Perth over onto the show, but they've all knocked me back. So thank you
listen to
so much
Joe.
for
Also,
Hey, look,
passion.
I'll talk to
Yeah.
Joe
Carrot
and
life.
Lisa,
Talk to
who I
Joe
trained with.
and Tanya
Yeah.
and Bernie, and I've been
Yeah.
trying. I've been trying.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, and we look
No
forward
worries.
to seeing you in action down the track.
Cheers.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. This was so fun.
Thanks,
Thank
ladies.
you.
Catch you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Yeah.